All right, hello YouTube people. Tim time here. Well, Tim. Today I'm just trying this. I'm going to do a quick video on, well, when I say quick, you know, it turns out, but the Heathkit. I brought it down. There's some things I want to look at, but I'm actually filming this on a GoPro, so we'll see how that turns out. Makes me look pregnant, but it's going to be the. Let me move this out of the way. See, it's nice because I have my phone here and I can actually see what I'm looking at. So we're going to look over here at the Heathkit and the amplifier here. What's it? The SB200. What I've noticed ever since I put it back together was, of course I can't really vouch for how it was because I never powered it up before I put it back together, but the voltage never goes up to 2400, and I'll show you that here in a second. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can zoom in by using my phone. We'll turn this on the high voltage section and we'll power it up and get a look at it. So it's, oh, I don't know, I guess about 22, 23, somewhere in that area. And book always says 2400. It doesn't really tell you where to look if you're not getting 2400. But I know there is a resistor network. Let me turn this back off just so it doesn't cover me up too much. I know there is a resistor network that controls the meter, and if that resistor network isn't correct, you know, within time and everything, that could be my issue too. Now, it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm only getting about 300 watts out now, because it was working fine before. So we'll take a look at that. That's just one thing I wanted to get a look at, was what the effect of that was. And then we'll also see why there's the low power output. So let me hang this camera back up, and maybe it'll be a little bit lighter and you'll be able to hear me better. All right, so with this camera, we're actually looking down on everything on the bench here. And if you remember correctly on these, I'm not really sure why they did this, but you can swing the top open, but there's still this all has to come out. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of that was. So I'll take these screws out and we'll just take a look in here, but I believe the resistor network's actually on the underside. So we'll see what we have to do to get to that. If I remember correctly, there's 4 screws here on the feet, and I think that's what you take out. It's been a while, and I'm losing my mind, so. Well, there's 4 screws in the front on the front plate, but I think that just holds the plate on. And before I really remembered that, I took it out, but it wouldn't tighten back up, which indicates to me that there's a nut behind it. So let me see. Now this radio, somebody painted it from that original green to this black color, which, I mean, it looks okay, but probably used spray cans and it didn't quite adhere too well. And if anything, maybe a powder coating or something would be nice. Screw's a little bit tough. I think all the weight's on it. There we go. All right, let's see if we can pop this thing out of here. Here it comes. Now I did already put the with the Harbach power supply kit in it, because when I first got it, the power supply was in pretty awful shape. So I put that kit in it with the new capacitors. It came complete, new capacitors, board, everything. It's a pretty nice kit. case you're dealing with one of these on your own, there's a tag right in here which pretty much covers it all. Danger, high voltage. So if you decide you want to play with these, be very careful, and you're taking your own risks to do it. I'm sure that the power supply caps have already discharged by now because there's a bunch of resistors in there, but I'm still not wanting to touch anything right now. So I just had it turned on. Get this out here and we'll slide this back over. Let's see. So where would this resistor network live? Here's the meter switch. Right here, isn't it? Yep, it is. And then the meter's over here. And I can see a bunch of wiring going through here. I guess I could have looked up in the assembly manual exactly where those resistors are. All right, let's put this back down. Take a look at the top. We've got to take those screws out too, so I'll pause it while I take those out. One more screw to go. Move those all out of the way. Take this off and put this somewhere out of the way. All right. Let's just take a look here at the power tubes right here to see if we see anything funky that would have happened to them. Does not appear so. I can try and light that up a little bit better too. All right. Here's the meter, of course. And I don't remember if I put an LED bulb in that or not. I don't think I did. Alright, so that resistor network must be underneath. Still fairly clean in here. This was one of those, I think a smoker had this originally. Another thing I want to label is the input and output jacks, because they're not, the labeling has since worn off of that. Okay. All right, I'm going to have to go get the assembly manual, or at least look it up and see where those are. Why is this capacitor laying against the other one? Alrighty, so now in reviewing the assembly manual, it looks as though the resistors, see if we can zoom in this a little bit. Looks as though the resistors for the sensing circuit go right here. But as you can see, they're not here anymore, and they connected to the old board. So I think I may have to look at the Harbach power supply, the installation and troubleshooting for that. Maybe that's why they may provide an answer for that, for why the voltage is so low. So let me pop this back down. I don't know if you got to get a good look inside here or not. Here's the that's the new power supply guy right there. I'm trying to move it so you can get a good look at it. There's the power tubes over here. How well you can see these guys right here. The getter in this one looks all funked up, all funky. So let me see if I can get that off and show you. Here's the getter in this one. That doesn't look too bad. I can see some kind of crazy discoloration down there. One thing I really didn't like about this particular amplifier was that the tubes are sitting in sideways. Now I guess that's what they had to do, because there probably wasn't many other options with these big gigantic tubes without making the radio huge. But if you look at the getter here, I'm not really sure what goes on with that. Looks like maybe there was a leak in this tube, or is a leak in this tube. But if you can see how it's kind of eaten off there, it's almost like it's gone. So now the search begins for these. I'm sure they're not expensive. Probably $5, $6. No, they're they are remade. They have a I think there's a Chinese version and a Russian version, and they're still pretty darn expensive, and I've heard that the Chinese version doesn't last very long. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. So the tube here, I used to know the part number. Were they 572B? Yeah, that's what they were, 572B. So I'll take a look for that, and in the meantime do some research and see what actually causes the getter to get worn like that. Mr. Carlson's Lab, if you watch that, that's a very informative fellow, and he knows a lot about vacuum tubes, and he talks a lot about the getter. And I'll have to look up, I know there was one he talked about what different situations caused that. So probably even if that's not blown up, that's a reason to replace that. If that's not my reason for only half power out. But maybe I'll look at old videos that I made on YouTube and see if the getter looked destroyed back then too. So let's see, let me do some research for the Harbach power supply and see if I can see why I'm getting a low reading, and we'll be back. Okay, so inside the Harbach power supply, these three resistors down here, 1, 2, and 3, they're what, R11, 12, and 13. They take the place of the trio of resistors that was underneath. So there's those three, they're supposed to be 4.7K. And then to make up the other side of the voltage divider network would be this guy here, and that one's 15K. Now that checks okay. These here, when I check them, they all check to be 3.7K. Again, they're in circuit, so it's really hard to say. So I'm gonna have to pull it out of circuit just to verify that there's not an issue with those resistors. So I'll pull one out of circuit and then test that, and it should be 4.7K, which I would imagine is correct. I don't know what kind of play you can expect to get from like getting the full 2400 volts with the Harbach power supply. You know, this meter's older, and course, I could put the 3000 volt power, or I mean voltmeter on here and test it and see what I have. But I think I'd like to just check those resistors, at least one of them anyhow, because they all three measure the same thing. So, but they are in circuit, so that's not a valid test. So let me get things ready. I'll pull one of those out and we'll give it a shot. All right, there's one that's been removed. Let me put you on meter up here. And let me see if I can clip on a probe on one of them. Hopefully that's enough. Trying to keep the glare down here. Let's see what we get. 4.76. Try the other one. Oops. 4.76. And 4.75. There we go. So they're all good. Alright, so the last thing I want to try before I over-investigate this thing, I'm just curious. I pulled out both of the tubes, and let's see what I get with my high voltage section now with the tubes out. Well, I'm getting just about 2350, so a little bit over. So I don't know if that's an issue or not. Everything's put back together like I said, and now to track down some tubes. Yeah, so it looks a little bald in there without those tubes. Everything else is put back together, and we're looking at almost 2400 volts. So that's all I have for now, and we'll look for some tubes. Thanks for watching. Take care.